Okay, I think we are live now. Okay, so hi everyone,
Okay.
welcome to the third episode of Design Decode by Design Tab NIT Rourkela. We have our alumni Rama Krushna today with us, who is currently works at Razorpay as a product designer specializing in design system. We'll talk about that in detail. Apart from that, previously Vaya has also worked with companies like MakeMyTrip and Polygon. So Vaya, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank college people. I think it's been what 3, 4 years since college, so feels good to be back. Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's start from the very beginning. So you graduated from NIT Rourkela in 2022, right? So could you tell a little bit about yourself and how you discovered product design back in college days?
Okay. So discovering product design, I think, though I graduated in 22, but discovering product design, I would have to go back to I think maybe around 2018, when I joined college. Uh, so funny thing is ki I appeared for JEE, I got some rank. I was eligible for like metallurgy, mining, and all those things. But then I was like, I want to like the plan was that at the long term, I want to have like a desk job. I want to sit and do things, not move here and there. Did some research, found out that there is something called industrial design, and I just went for that department altogether. When I joined the department, I somehow like while browsing across internet, I had found the term UI UX, but at that point of time, I had thought that UI UX is front end development. So that's where in my first semester of college, I was learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and stuff, which was like a different domain altogether. But then I think first semester happened. I had like bad grades in couple of subjects, and then I realized that academics is not working out that well for me. And I think at that point of time, one of my seniors, I was talking to him, and he suggested that academics, if it's not working out that great, since you're in industrial design department, maybe you can give design a try. If it works out better, or else you'll figure out something. So that was like the key entry point. I think this happened around November or December of 2018. And that's where I started basically diving into design. At that point of time, I had no idea that, there is something product design, graphic design, motion design. I just started exploring stuff. So I started with, basics like Photoshop, Illustrator, learning the tools, what are some of the design philosophies and all those things. Uh, Joined a couple of clubs, I think, in the first year. That's like one of the good ways to explore how things are working, how to, do things. Then I was like doing something, and then in order to clear the backlog and stuff, I obviously had to stay back this summer. Now I had to attend one class in the entire day, which was like 1 hour. And if you take into account the commute time, that's like 1.5 hours. So I had the entire day to myself, and I had another friend. He was also there, so he was more into development and stuff. I was more into designing. So the 2 months of summer that I was in college, so I spent a lot of time just, learning whatever possible. Let it be tools, let it be, fundamental or the principles of design and all of those things. That's where it gave me good enough idea. And I think I had few seniors who knew me, and I got my first like official project at NIT, which was I think designing the placement brochure or the placement manual. This happened in I think summer of 2019. I designed the first ever project, and that gave me confidence. Like design is something that I enjoy, and maybe I can pursue it. Then as like exploring all of these things, then dhire dhire I came to know that there is something called as UI UX, some call it as product design as well. And in December of 2019, basically when we have the entire December vacation wala period, I stayed back in college. So we had this professor in our department, Dhananjay sir. So he was mostly looking into interaction design and stuff. So I kind of worked on a small project with him, basically just to explore what UI UX is. And that's where I kind of discovered that, though I can work on multiple domains of design, that, motion design is something that I can work with. Even like graphic design is something that I can work with. But product design is something where I kind of find my interest in, where there is like creativity and also you have some amount of logical thinking. So in a way, you are using both logic and creativity. So that was fun. So that's where it started. But again, by next year, early next year, COVID hit. It was difficult for me to basically figure out, how to do things and all. That's where I joined online cohort 10K designers, connected with couple of people, worked on couple of projects, kind of gave me confidence that, I had, and also during that time also built my portfolio that, these are certain projects that I worked on. And once the cohort ended, I kind of started applying at different places. I got a couple of internships, then again updated my portfolio based on the internships that I did, and then applied for job, and I got a job, and that this is where I'm right now. But yeah, this is the short story long, basically, how I discovered and how I came into design.
Okay, that's a really great story. So another thing I want to ask you that I see most people misunderstood the potential of design. Like here at NIT, most people think being a designer means you are good at making posters. So would you like to uncover what design means to you? Like what is UX design exactly?
Uh, I mean, interesting question. I mean, I would like to steal this quote from, I think it was from Steve Jobs, I'm assuming. That design is not how it looks, but how it works also. So while when you're starting out, and again at a college, even I have been through that phase. Most of the times the same thing happens, that you work for a fest or a club and you are designing couple of posters, banners, flexes, and all of those things. Uh, so if you're just designing that from a कि बस डिजाइन करके ही प्रिंट आउट निकालना है point of view, or then just designing stuff. But also, if you are kind of putting your brains into it and you're, back of the mind thinking that, what's because when I was in college, I've also seen, if there is, let's say, abhi Diwali aa raha hai, all the clubs, all the fests would have like a very similar poster. But now the mindset comes in, like, let's say you're designing a poster. I'll come into the UX part later on, but even if you're designing something as simple as a poster, you can think of it as, how can you convey some story or, make something unique. There are like, maybe use some sort of, like negative space, maybe try something with 3D, try something else. So that gives a whole perspective to it. Now the other thing is, this perception in college is there because I think again the college is mostly engineering focused college, even though we have like a design department. But now that I have graduated, I can say it openly that people don't understand design that well in college, uh, because so there are like colleges where there are dedicated design departments and they focus properly on design, but अपने college में नहीं होता है, to be honest. uh, but yeah, coming back to your question, it's difficult to say ki, it at the end of the day, it comes down to your own curiosity that, so there are like, if I have to put it, there can be two different personas, right? One, you are just doing it for the sake of doing it, कि हाँ Photoshop use करके या फिर Figma use करके बनाने में कुछ मजा आ रहा है, I'll just create it, it's for fun. That is also fine. But if you want to pursue this as from a career perspective, that is where you need to build your curiosity even more. That ठीक है, like I'm okay with I can design posters, but what next? What else can I build? So there is no fixed path to it, but it has to kind of come up with your own curiosity. And the good thing being in the 21st century is that we have internet, so you'll find a lot of inspiration from internet. Also feel free to reach out to people. Even when I was in college, I just randomly used to text people on LinkedIn and Twitter that give me feedback, or give me internship, this is what I'm working on, and all those things. So that helps you gain that perspective that what are the other things that you can do as well. But overall, this is what I'd like to say. I'm not sure if I answered your question exactly or not.
No, it somehow answered it right. So the question is like mostly what design mean to you. So uh,
Mm,
yeah, I think that's great. So another thing is that I see there are a lot of big tech companies, like especially product-based and service-based companies. They hire designers, right? So my question is basically, why do they need designers? What is the value that design bring to a company?
mm. Uh, So I'll tell you what the In any of the tech companies, if I have to say, let it be, like a small startup, or let it be uh, you know, a medium-sized company, or let it be like a big MNC company as well. So whenever you have any product, you have to build any product, there are product managers involved, there are engineers, front-end, back-end engineers involved, there are analytics, and there are designers, researchers who are involved. Now, so there are a couple of things, right? First is that uh, PMs and mostly engineers, they are mostly focused on the, if I have to put it in a way, I would say mostly on the build part of it, that, if we are building a solution, how that scales, how that works. So mostly they are focused on that perspective, that, how do we generate revenue? How do we build a product so that, it doesn't break, it works as perfect as possible, and all of those things. But at the end of the day, if there's a product in the market, that will be only usable, and people will only use it if it's, kind of solving a problem. So if let's say I'm using Swiggy or Zomato, it's because I have a problem. I don't want to go out and purchase food and come back. It takes a lot of time. That is solving a particular problem for me. Now that is where designers basically step in. They figure out that what works well for. So if I am a user, as a the role of the designer is basically figuring out that uh, what works well for the users that we have. So and basically figuring that out. And obviously there is the part where you design and make things look beautiful. That obviously you will do. But the major chunk is basically figuring out, what's the ideal experience. If someone is using your product, what should be the best experience that is out there? That is where it creates a differentiator. Now, in the current scenario with AI coming into place, right? Now I can give a couple of prompts and I can create a product, maybe, in a day itself, or maybe in a couple of hours. So that is where design becomes a key differentiator. So something as simple as, maybe I think let's say Splitwise, for example. All of us have used Splitwise. Now, if I have to create, I can give a couple of prompts to some AI model and it will create the entire product for me. But now what becomes the differentiator is that how am I defining the overall experience, that, when I land onto the page, कैसा होना चाहिए, what the onboarding experience should be. When I've landed, अगर मुझे कुछ amount add करके split करना है, so now what that flow should look like, the entire journey of the product, the different steps that are involved, how the overall experience should be, that is where the designers own basically. And that is something that basically creates a differentiator. And that is, I think, one of the main reasons why all these companies have designers.
Okay, got the point. So I want to ask you that what is your personal growth as a designer look like? Like if you can take us through your journey, like starting from your first internship to the position you are in right now, like both in terms of your work responsibility and in terms of your pay. If you can share a bit more.
Right. Sure. I think I'll go back to, I think, when I started with, so I think when I started, I did a couple of small freelance job sort of things that, where I was designing, doing branding, designing stuff, kind of things. And then I think when COVID hit, while I was doing the 10K wala cohort, I just wanted to, kind of learn and apply. So I used to just randomly, apply at different places with the hope that, maybe someone finds my portfolio worth it and they give me a chance. And that is where I think I got this design volunteering opportunity with UNDP. So they were building some gamified website sort of thing around, I think it was around climate change sort of thing. I worked there for like 6 months, designing a couple of things. And I joined there as a, UX design volunteer sort of thing. But also, since I had little bit skill set in motion design and graphic design, I also did some work for that. So that gave me overall idea that, this is how kind of products at a very high level. Then once I think I had, and I think my 10K ka cohort and the UNDP wala volunteering project ended towards the same time. That's when I was like, applying at a lot of different places. And MakeMyTrip is one place where I got the internship. Again, that was like, I think 6 months long internship. I was working on a B2B product, basically, hotel management stuff kind of things. That's where I worked on a couple of projects, and that is, I think, the first place where I got to know a lot about, how. So most of the times when you're designing and we're starting out, like कि Figma पे rectangles बना देते हैं, हो गया अपना design, it looks good. But when you're actually building or designing a product, you design it on Figma, but you also have to take into consideration, how the engineers are going to build it. What's the, workflow going to look like? There are certain technical challenges. There are certain business constraints. There are time constraints. So there are a lot of things that happen. So that is, I think, in that 6 months or a period, got to worked on a couple of projects and got to even know that, how basically things work, how products work, what are, how basically teams operate, a lot of processes and stuff as well that, if I'm working on a personal project, I just build something and I ship it. But when you're working with a team, there are like review processes, there are handoffs, and there are a lot of things. So got to learn all of that. And during this phase, one of the things that I did was, I think it was again during the COVID time, all of this was online. And crypto was something which was like booming. So I thought maybe, Polygon is something that, and even the designers, they were like really good designers. I thought maybe I'll, connect with them over Twitter and, जान पहचान बना लेते maybe future में if I want to do a job or internship that would help there. So one random guy just texted, who was my manager there, that, I've been fascinated by what you guys are building. Uh, if I get a chance, I'd love to work with you guys. And then he texted me at 4 in the morning that, since I also used to post, and even I do currently as well, lot of my works and experimentation on Twitter and Insta. Like I've seen couple of your product design works, but since you've mentioned motion design as well, can you show some of that work as well? So I sent him the portfolio, and then he's like, "Ki, nah, once this internship gets over, you can start the next internship." So, and I just started there, and there I was working as a product plus motion design intern. So, and that was like a very unique experience in itself because, to give an idea, at Make My Trip, I was the 99th designer who joined the team. At Polygon, as the 99th employee who joined the team. So the scale was very different at both the places. Where at Make My Trip, I had like very specified role that, I had a specific product and I was looking at the UX part of it. But when I joined Polygon, and also since I joined as product plus motion guy, so I was looking at both. So I was designing. I did a design system project. I did, like couple of product projects. I did some marketing videos. There was a 3D motion designer. I collaborated with him and did marketing videos. And even there was something called as motion design system, which I came across and built that thing as well. So that was, I think, a 3 or 4 months ka internship. So that was a unique experience in itself. Once both of these internships were over, I think it was like 6 months and 4 months, man, like 10 months ka internship I've done. If it was not not COVID time, I couldn't have done that, but it was COVID, classes were online, so I was able to do like a 10 months internship. Then I was like, "Ki, ho gaya. I've done enough of internship." Took like I think 4 months break and built my portfolio with the internship projects that I've done. And once I made my portfolio live, so there were a few companies that reached out to me. I was reaching out to a couple of companies, and then I think it was some early February. It was around I think 11 in the night. Me and my friends were in the VS night canteen, VS Olka. I think you have that night canteen. We're having Maggie, and I opened Twitter, saw a designer from Razorpay. He had posted that we are hiring senior product designer for the design systems team at Razorpay. And then I was like, "Hey," I just texted him that, I don't have experience. I'm like a fresh college graduate, but I built my portfolio recently. So let me know if there is some job that, mere experience ke hisab se if there is some job. And then he referred me the other day. I had the interview. The interview process took like 2 to 3 weeks roughly. And then I think in April, I started the job at Razorpay. But I applied for the design systems team there, but obviously at that point of time, I didn't have much of design system experience. So I joined the growth team, worked there for I think 3 months. Then I joined the top of the funnel top F team, worked there for I think roughly 3 to 4 months. And within this period, design system is something that was kind of interesting to me. So I was working on a couple of design system things on the side. And I think 6 or 7 months after that, I transitioned into I switched to the design system team. And I think I've been working with DS since that point till now. So yeah, roughly this is kind of the overall, the journey so far.
Okay, that's great. So you basically specializes in design system, right? So my question for you is like, what is a design system, or how is building a design system actually help a company? Could you tell something about it?
Right. So yeah. I'll tell you how it helps. So now to give some context about, Razorpay. Now Razorpay as a brand it exists. Now inside of Razorpay, there are some, 100 plus different products that exists. So now maybe you might know one or two products, someone might know one or two products, but since I've been working here, so there are like, some 50, 100 products that exist. Now, there are a couple of aspects to it. One, I would talk from a consistency point of view, right? Now there are some 100 designers or like, some 70, 80 designers and some 100, 150 developers who are working on all of these different products. Now there are different teams working on different products as well. So at the end, what happens is like everyone has their own, design choice and design preferences. So maybe, I like, maybe like rounded button and maybe you like something like, very sharp or square button, something as simple as that, Now, at what happens is like, now again with like some 50, 60 designers, all of them, they have their own design preference, design choice, all of them, they design on their own. But at the end of the day, what happens is as a user, it affects me that, I'm using 10 different Razorpay products, but when I go from product A to product B, everything feels different. So that kind of doesn't give a very professional outlook. So if you have used any of, like mature products, for example, Uber is a very good example, right? Now, Uber may, if you go to any of the Uber के products, all of them, they have that very coherent feel that, it doesn't feel that, yeah, may one of this was like very different, the other thing is like very different. So that is from a consistency point of view that, at the end, the user who is using all our products, to that person, everything should feel that, all of these are from the same family. It shouldn't feel like, ये कुछ और किसी ने बनाया ये कुछ और एक product है. So that is one part of it. Second is from a efficiency perspective. Now again, so when I talk about products, now there are like very complex products with lot of steps involved, lot of flows involved. So as a product designer, the ideal experience for me should be ki, this is the entire journey that I have to create. That step one user will maybe log in, step two user will fill the details, step three, step four, and so on. So I have to think from that perspective, and I have to design the bigger screens that are there the entire journey. Now, as a product designer, if I'm going and thinking that how my button should look, how my input field should look like, how the interaction of all these components should be key. If I click on a drop down, what speed or what animation should happen? If I click on a button, what the interaction state should be? What should be the accessibility standards of it? That keyboard navigation wo kaise kaam karega and all of those things. If people start to think about all of this, and now this is not only for designers but also for developers as well. So designers will do on their own, and developers would also have to build all these things custom by themselves. So at the end of the day, it kind of so from a efficiency perspective, it uh, without a design system or a UI library in place, a lot of your time gets wasted designing all these things. Interaction state, accessibility, all of those things. So rather, what basically we do is we give you a unified, design library that, these are the things in place. Think of this as like Lego blocks. You take all these Lego blocks and now you are open, you are free to, build like, maybe take the Lego blocks. If you want to build a house, you are free to do that. If you want to build a car, you can do that. So you don't have to think, ये छोटे छोटे blocks को कैसे build करना है. So to summarize the question that you asked, there is consistency and there is like efficiency. These are like the two major goals in which having a design system or like, in certain cases, a UI library basically helps the overall product at a company.
Okay, got the point. So one thing I want to know ki you have worked at MakeMyTrip and Razorpay also. So MakeMyTrip is a B2C company, right? So and Razorpay is more of a B2B company. So I want to know what is the basic difference in the approach to design you observed in both of these companies. Like
Hmm.
in B2C companies, they focus more on the public or the user point of view. In B2B companies, it's all in the backend, right?
Right.
There is not much user interaction, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
how? how the design approach is there.
So, so I think, sorry to disappoint a bit, but the team that I was working with at Make My Trip was a B2B team. So
Yeah,
now so to give some context, now the major product that Make My Trip has, the Make My Trip app or the website that we use, that is like a B2C facing. But to
right,
give some context, the product or the team that I was working with, what it basically used to do. So, for example, if I have to book a hotel, right, I'll open the app or I'll go to the website. I'll select that, maybe I want to book a hotel at maybe let's say Bangalore from this date to this date, and I'll select a particular hotel. And within the hotel, there are like different room types. They have the budget, and that if you take 3,000 per night wala room, this is what you get. If you take 3,500, then you'll get complimentary breakfast and all of those things. Now, this is what we see on
right.
the consumer side. But there is also a product which has been built for all these hotels and homestays as well. So basically, that is where they manage all of those things. So if I'm running a hotel, I'll basically use this application in order to say that, this is the festival period and इस time पे per room का charge would be, maybe like थोड़ा extra. This is like the off-season period. यहाँ पे I'll give some discounts. If all the rooms are booked out, then I'll just mark all of those things. So that was like the product that I was working on. But now coming to the other part, there since again it was a B2B thing, most of the focus there was on building the functionality part of it. UI or the interaction was not a very key aspect to it. So we are mostly focused on it should work as expected. It should have the experience should be top notch. UI like देखा जाएगा, not a top priority. Towards the later half of my internship, I worked on a project where we are basically taking building an app similar to that, but for homestays. But now since homestays are not like hotels and thoda personalization चाहिए, that is where we're focusing a little bit more on the UI part. But coming to Razorpay, Razorpay is again most of the products apart from the checkout experience that we have and the POS device that we have, all of the things are like mostly B2B. But one of the design philosophy that we have is that just because it's B2B doesn't mean that it just needs to be functional and it shouldn't look good. So that is where we take the philosophy and they're like कि functional to hoga hi. It should work as expected. All the functionality should be top notch. But also we should also strive for top class UI and top class visual design aspect of it. So that is like a major shift that UX to hoga hi hoga, but UI and interaction that also needs to be top notch. So that is like a major difference that I have basically seen at both these places. Also again, like Make My Trip का जो बताया, I don't know currently what's the scenario. The thing that I'm telling, this was I think back in 2020, which is like I think almost 5 years back. Right now, I don't know what's the exact scenario like, but roughly this is the major difference that I noticed at both these places.
Okay, so let's just bring back the conversation to the beginners. Okay, so let's say I'm in my freshman year of the college. Okay,
Yeah.
like not in a very shiny branch. Okay, so I don't know what to do in my life, but I have some interest in designing. So how should I know whether I should pursue design or not? Like I have some interest, but you know, a lot of not a lot of people around us do design or pursue design. So how do you know if design is my cup of tea or not?
Hmm. Right. I think I have this similar advice. So it can be, for design or for anything in general. The best way to figure out is that, just mess around and find out. There is like no easy way to it because until you have tried out something, you don't know if that thing is meant for you. So the ideal way to think about it is that, don't think from so if you're in your first year of college, you have time, like, you have like 4 years of college, which is like quite sufficient. So first year में don't think if I pursue design if I'll get a good job or not. उसका time आएगा, you can think about it later on. First year, at least from my point of view, is कि just go around and experiment and just try things out that uh, try even it can be design, it can be coding, and even in design also you try, let's try 3D design, try product design, try motion graphics, anything. So once you try out all of these things, eventually at the beginning you'll have that curve, like, so whenever you start learning this thing, there is this curve sort of a thing. at first point you'll have to go through the deep, the things that you see versus the things that you built, there is a big gap in that. But after a point, you'll hit that thing and you'll start moving upwards. But again, coming back to what you asked, mostly it's just, pick some project. Maybe, the best way to do it is go to, search online, abhi do AI, be just uh, get couple of ideas from, put some AI prompts and just try to replicate as well. Something as simple as, find a poster online if you like it really. Try to find some UI tutorials, try to replicate it. Try to just, play around, experiment, and see if you're enjoying the process or not. So if you're the rule of thumb and the thing that has worked for me is if you are enjoying the process, then the outcome doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you are enjoying the process. You'll find fun. You'll find it fun to do. But if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, at some point you'll get bored and then you'll like, ki bhai ye ho gaya, I'll need to switch on to something different. So my advice would be ki you have sufficient time, at least give a semester, if not your entire first year, give a semester and try out things. Even you have first year ki summer, maybe you don't have things. So hopefully if you don't have any backlog or anything, you have like free 3 months ka period as well to just go ahead and mess around with things. You'll eventually figure out, what works out well for you.
Okay, got it. So uh, I want to ask that like the scenario of design has changed from couple of years. Okay, now there are more jobs and more hiring and all. So what do you think would be the ideal roadmap for beginners to learn UI UX design? Like how should you learn the concepts or the things that required? I know the best thing is to practice and get your hands that dirty, but there is some initial theory to it. How do you approach it right now in 2025 in the age of AI or not?
Right. Personally, I feel, the approach that you have, it's kind of different for different people. Maybe I'll tell what worked for me, and if the same thing works out for someone else, that's like great. So basically, what I basically try to do is if I have to go into something and figure out if this is a thing for me or not, I keep theory and all those things aside. I just find some project and maybe try to just create it. It could be learning some new tool, learning some new process, all of those things. I try to create something. I get the idea that this is how the thing works. Then I go back to the theory wala part that I created this thing, but now this is how color theory works. Like this is how you set typography. This is how grid system works. This is how you design an icon. You go back to the so you start in the middle. Then you go back to the foundation, strengthen up your foundation, and then you start from there. Uh, so that is what kind of works. And so with learning, when it comes to learning anything, there are like two aspects. So you have to learn the theory part of it, and then again you have to do hands-on work as well. Hands-on work, though, I think people know how this thing works out, but theoretically, again, there are like lot of resources online. At least back in the day, I had to, YouTube and Google search, but with GPT, Gemini, and all of those things, you can just go ahead and ask that, I want to learn about, how to define or, how to design icons. Help me with couple of resources for that. And all these AI models should, give you a list of curated resources. Go through couple of those videos, try to replicate. Replicating something is like, the best way of learning. Tutorial dekh dekh ke banao, you'll get the idea. Once you're comfortable with it, like, हाँ ठीक है, खुद से I can create. But this is the approach that kind of has worked out for me, and I know few people, few friends of mine for whom the same approach has worked out. So this is one way to think about it. Other approach could be I have also known people who start with the theory wala part and then they go there. So they take a very linear approach. They start with the theory, then they move on to the hands-on wala work and keep on iterating. That is again another approach. So whatever works out for you is better. But हाँ वो खुद से figure out करना है कि what works out better for you.
Okay, I got it. So okay, now this might feel like an interview question, but let's say if you are a solo designer, okay, in a startup, how do you identify problems in a product? Like, how do you know that this is a problem which is worth solving, and how do you validate it? So, what is your
Uh,
approach to
I'd
it?
say talk to I'd say talk to the users. That is like the
So,
best way to, yeah. I
okay, let's
think
say
I was talking to
have the access to the users.
Sorry.
How do you see? Let's say you don't have the access of the users, then like how do you build the hypothesis around it? Okay, okay, this might be the
I
problem.
mean, see,
This might be the problem in the screen. That is why something is happening. Something is wrong
hmm,
in the computer. So,
right. So now there could be, multiple scenarios. So, given that, we are working at a company that operates at scale,
I think
hear
your
that
audio
sort of thing.
just.
I think, is it better?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's better right now. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Ah, so yeah, so I'm saying that, now when you're working at a company that operates at scale, there are multiple ways. So, for example, where I work currently, there are multiple ways people raise, customer support tickets that, this is not working out. So that is like one, even without talking to users, I know that, this is where people are raising complaints and this is what is not working out. Similarly, there are, insights coming from some place or the other. But if I'm working at a very early stage and if I'm the solo designer, obviously I can go ahead and make hypotheses. But again, if it's if the hypothesis is correct or not, that again at the end of the day depends. क्योंकि so think of it this way, right? So you design something, you made the V1 of it live, and if it's not working out, so you can obviously make like some hundreds of hypotheses that maybe changing the position of the button would work, maybe a redesign of this page would work, maybe changing the copy of this page would work. There are like 100 different approaches that you can take. You can define those hypotheses based on your personal understanding and maybe the overall understanding or the vision that you have at your team. But I think this is someone what one of my mentors told me long back is कि it's easy for us to discuss कि हम ऐसे proper ऐसे restaurant cafe में बैठ के we're discussing कि that will build a product and this will solve all the problem for a person in a tier 2 city. But unless you're on ground and you're talking to that person, that what is the usual journey looks like, what's the day-to-day things that they do, you don't have that exact context. And that is where even if you create a lot of hypotheses, at the end of the day you might not be solving the right problem and you might be putting your effort in the wrong place. And this also kind of ties back to the very first question that you asked me, right? Like, how does design creates a differentiator? This is the place where you build that differentiator. Because again, in the current age, building a product, building an app is much more easier compared to, if I had to say even like 1 year back, it had like some friction, but now it's much more easier. By the time this YouTube live stream ends, within that time I can create an app. So it has become that much simpler. But if you're building the right solution or not, that is something which AI hasn't solved. Maybe I can give you a couple of insights that someone has done some research in the past. You'll be able to get some high level insights, but for the thing that you're building, at the end of the day, you'd have to go and talk to that person, talk to a couple of users that and it can be anything, right? Maybe you can just create a simple Figma prototype and just show it that this is what you built and collect insights. So that is where you'll get most of your insights. So ideally, I would say again, hypothesis बना सकते हो जितना बनाना है, but in order to figure out सही चीज, if you're solving the right thing or not, you'd have to talk to the users.
Okay, got it. So basically, let's say you got the right thing, you identified a problem. Okay. So what is the process you follow? Like, I know there is not a single process, but there has to be some roadmap or some guidelines you follow in every problem,
Mhm.
solving every problem. So what is your design process look like?
Right.
So,
Uh, so I think more or less, I think the process remains the same, that you and I think this is again like a company at scale and a very early stage startup, more or less similar process exists, that you identify the problem. Now let's say if you have enough data points, you can validate that if the problem is right or not. But if you don't have enough data points, it's difficult to validate. So maybe you talk to users, do some amount of research, if you have the privilege to do it. uh, but after that, the process more or less remains the same. थोड़ा ऊपर नीचे हो सकता है, but you iterate a lot, figuring out what the ideal journey should be like. Maybe do some wireframing, maybe do some prototyping using AI tools and stuff. Design the final mockups and make it live. Once it has gone out live, once people have started using, then you'll get the feedback that, something is working out, something is not working out. And then you go for the V2 of it. So at the end of the day, product development is not a linear cycle, but it's a cyclic process that you identify something, you create and ship something, you get feedback on it, and then again the cycle repeats. That कुछ नया problem आ गया, you identify that maybe this is something that needs to be solved. So for example, there are like 20, or let's say there are 10 problems. You prioritize and you build the V1 of it. Maybe in the V1 you have tackled 5 problems correctly, but there are 5 remaining. So then in the V2 you tackle the other 5 problems. उसको कैसे solve कर सकते हैं. So that goes as a loop, and that is how you kind of solve things.
Okay, okay, got it. So, uh, let's talk a little bit about the design industry in general. So, how do you see this industry evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? Like the age of AI and automation, how do you see the industry evolve?
Mhm. This
Like,
is
do
a
you think that
interesting
we're going to
question
be replaced
because
something like that by AI and stuff?
sorry.
Do you think that we're going to be replaced
Uh,
by AI and stuff?
Not really. I mean, while there is this fear at the back of the mind that AI will replace us, but uh, the thing is that one thing that has because I think over the last 1 year, the trend that I've seen that is happening is AI would eventually replace you if you are not the one using AI. So either you start using AI or AI replaces you. Roughly, that's kind of a scenario. And
Hmm.
over the next 5 to 10 years, right? Even I might be wrong, because as we talk, this entire thing is evolving. But the overall trend that I'm seeing is in next couple of years, right? Your role won't just be limited to a product designer as such. So let's say you join आज के दिन में like there is like product designer, there are front end back end engineers, and then there are product managers, which are like very specified roles. But going ahead, all of this roles should kind of start to blend in at certain point. That so there are like even our company also, we have started experimenting with it at a couple at up to certain extent that if you're a product designer, there is like one group of it who are more into product management all that stuff as well, identifying product requirements, identifying the challenges,
Hmm.
building prototypes and stuff using AI and all of those things. So you are a designer, but you are not just a designer, but you're also doing a little bit of product management all the thing as well, identifying, creating quick prototypes, and gathering feedback. There is also another aspect to it of it where you are not just a product designer, but more of a product builder. So I'm designing stuff, but also up to certain extent I'm writing code and pushing some of those changes as well. It could be minor as a bug fixes and things like that as well. But that is it. But all in all, the idea is that you should be able to. So at the end of the day, if you are just a designer who can design rectangles on Figma, most probably AI will replace you. Kyunki if so let's say if I'm a recruiter, right? Now I can, if I give a prompt to some AI model that design a screen for me, and it's able to do that, and I ask you the same thing, you are also able to do that. But AI is doing it for me in like 5 minutes. You will take maybe let's say one day. So you are not adding some extra value to me. So that is where it comes in that apart from designing, you should also have certain other core skill sets as well. Maybe things like research, a little bit of development process or development cycle, how things happen, a little bit of coding or maybe product management. So that is where it helps. But again, coming back, this is on a long term thing. But when you're starting out fresh out of college, you don't need to be expert at all of these things. Product design is something that should be your core competency. Then apart from that, you should be able to play around with AI and build stuff. So it's not like you bus Figma pe or creating mocks, but also you can build and ship something. You should have some amount of confidence with that. So that is like a good starting point, I would say. And then once you go into a career, and with time you'll learn stuff. But yeah, this is the kind of the trend that I'm foreseeing at least for next couple of years.
Hmm. Okay, so, do you think the AI tools right now building UIs are good enough to a certain extent? like the tools Snitch and something like that for
I
UI
would say
design.
that, with all the so at this time, UI design point of view, say the tools are not that great. But from a prototyping and testing out different functionalities or different interactions, from that perspective, it is really great. So uh, I think maybe in couple of years with the rate at which AI is evolving, in next couple of years, it will be able to build very good UI as well. But at the moment, it's not at that particular stage. But when it comes to interaction design, prototyping, that is where it's really able to build, very complex stuff, things that you may not be able to build in Figma itself, those complex interactions. So, and ideal way to work with it is key interactions you can build with the, AI model. And if you have your designs on Figma, you can give all those values that, this is what the corner radius, this is what the background color, this is what the text should look like. And that, I think, if you provide that context, AI is able to replicate that. But if you ask, design a landing page for me or like a login screen for me, maybe it won't create that good of a screen.
Okay, got it. So, how do you use AI tools in your process? Like mostly, there are tools like ChatGPT, Gemini. They use image generation and a lot. So, do you use them in your work process? So, how do you use them? Like mostly for brainstorming or
Uh,
creating ideas? Is there something else?
so there are like multiple aspects to it, I'll tell. So one is the first thing that you mentioned, right? Brainstorming and this thing. So if I'm creating something, right? If I'm like, creating something as simple as a component, I know that, if I have to create a button component, these are all the variants that would exist. But then I go ahead and ask, do a comprehensive research around, all the open source design system that exists and give me a list of all the possible variants that can be. Just giving an example, that helps me get an idea. That, okay, these are also certain things that it can do, but I haven't thought of. One is from a brainstorming perspective. Second, even, once I've done thing in order to document all of those design decisions and all of those things, I'm like, I put the rough content that, these are the things that I want. Format the content because that is something where I don't want to spend much of my time. I like, documentation karna hai, gave a couple of prompts, it does the documentation. In some cases, again, like things such as image generation as well, that also works out. So these are like the generic use cases जो होता ही है. Apart from that, जैसे recently I was working on a project जहाँ पे if I do it on Figma, complex to figure out. Uh, Similarly, if I have to, just tell the developers that, these are the complex, these are all the interactions that are involved. It would also be difficult for them, and they would set up, 2 to 3 calls with me just to understand how the things works. So I just went ahead. I think I used Google AI Studio or something, gave a couple of prompts, and it was able to build like, UI was not perfect, but the interaction that I wanted, it was able to build the perfect interaction. So I just gave the link of that particular tool to the devs that you can refer to this, and that made everything much smoother. Similarly, you can build tools. Again, I was working on something jahan pe I had to iterate a lot, and so basically again giving a couple of prompts created a small prototype of sorts. So prototype generation is something that you can use for in short. Uh, and something that I've been experimenting with currently is like building Figma plugins as well. So we have cases internally jahan pe in order to make designers and developers more efficient, we are building internal tools as well. So obviously developers are building it, but as a designer, I know that these are certain challenges that exist. What if I can build a Figma plugin for it? So using Chat GPT and Cursor and some experimentation, there are like 2 Figma plugins that I was able to build in like 2 months. So these are again some of the yeah. So these are again some of the areas where you can experiment with. On a personal side, also I have not on personal side, even like designing landing pages or things like that. Actually, you give a couple of prompts, it creates landing page for you. So if you want to give a quick prototype or a mock-up of sorts, uh, give a couple of prompts. Ideally, you don't even have to like कैसे perfect English में लिखना है. Most of the times I'm like I want this, build it for me, and most of the time it works fine. And उसके बाद I gave couple of prompts to fine tune it. But again. So content generation, prototyping, tooling, these are some of the major things I would say where I use AI on my day-to-day basis.
Okay, got it. So this takes me to the question that what's your typical day look like as a designer at Razorpay? Is it like pretty hectic, or do you get free time to do other things and all? How's in general the
Uh,
work balance?
I think most of the days I would say it's pretty much balanced. Obviously, there are days I think maybe like once a month or once in 2 months type जहाँ पे थोड़ा वो hectic होगा. Or maybe sometimes if I'm going on leave to 2 days or like the week before that, it's little bit hectic before I have to close on all of the things, communicate all the things to the developer so that no one is blocked on me while I'm away. Uh, but I think most of the time it's like more or less pretty well balanced where I'm working on the projects that are planned, but I also have, some free time to me that if I want to experiment with something or, try out something, I have the flexibility or opportunity to do that. Also, yeah, answering your question, how does day to day look? There is like no more or less all the days are like little bit different. So there are days जहाँ पे lot of calls are scheduled that I have like lot of review calls with different teams. Maybe my design is getting reviewed by someone or I am reviewing someone else's design. A lot of meetings around that. There are days when there is like more of hands-on work that no meetings in the day or maybe like one or two meetings and I'm doing like proper hands-on work. Then there are like mixed days, and then there are days where something ad hoc comes in that I'm working on something, but then there is some priority thing comes in like whatever you're doing, pause it for a bit, solve this thing at priority, and then go back to the project. So ऐसे रहता है, but either it's like mostly meetings wala day or hands-on work wala day or a mix of both. These are like the major three scenarios that happens.
Okay, so one thing I want to ask you that how do you defend your design decisions? Like design is a very subjective thing, right? It might there are two people who have different opinions in design. So how do you defend your decisions? So could you share
Uh,
something about it?
right. Uh, I think so. This is something that I learned once I joined the design system team. So one of my senior, I think, first couple of months in design system team, he told me, you have to be because to give some context, when you are when you're designing a product, there are scenarios where you can be a little bit more subjective. That I designed this because it was like looking good, some sort of thing, but when you're working on the design system, you are owning up to the very foundation level of it. So if I have like a blue color and the hex code of it, that is something that I'm owning. So you need to be so at that stage you cannot be subjective. I मुझे अच्छा लगा तो मैंने blue use कर लिया. That is something that you cannot say at this stage. So that is where my senior also told me कि the ideal way is you have to become more objective in order to defend your design decisions. Obviously, there would be some scenarios जहाँ पे थोड़ा सा subjectivity आएगा, but the more you become objective, the much easier it becomes to defend your design decisions. So, but there is no easy way for it. So basically, whenever you're designing, so there are like two phases to it, if I have to think of it. So when you're just doing iterations and you're exploring, don't think much, जो अच्छा लगे वो बनाओ. But let's say you have iterated some 20 30 different versions of the same screen, for example, let's say. Now that is where you start to become more objective, that let's say this is my brand language. My brand language is that it's very vibrant and it's very sharp. So that is like one of the decision all factors. If I'm saying vibrant, all the colors that I'm using, all of those should be vibrant. If I'm using some pastel color or some little bit lighter colors, that shouldn't work out, so discard that. Similarly, if you're saying, my brand is like a very sharp brand, you cannot use, very rounded, very childish looking kind of fonts or, corner radius as such. So these are again few examples, but all the decisions needs to be backed with, some objectivity in mind. That is how you can back some design decision. And there would be scenarios where you would also have to, get user insight. So there are scenarios where, people argue about, that should the feature be built in this manner or should it be built in that manner? The best idea is that go ahead, do your research or do a user testing. Your user will tell you what works the best for them, and that gives you a point of objectivity, that this is the thing that is working out for 8 out of 10 users, and this is what is working out for 2 out of 10 users. So that is where you have a direction that हमें इस direction में जाना है, because this is something that is working out for majority of the people that we have. So but the overall idea is कि जितना objective बना सकते हो चीजों को उतना बनाओ. Obviously, since it's design, since it's a creative field, there will be some amount of subjectivity to it. But in order to defend your design decisions, you have to become a little bit more objective. You cannot go and say कि अच्छा लगा तो बना लिया. So that thing.
Right. Okay, so one thing I want to ask that what I observed that from a lot of my seniors, that they say it's a bit tricky to crack B2B companies like Razorpay and Salesforce, companies like that. So what actually B2B companies are looking for in a, maybe you can talk about it in an intern level candidate. What they actually look for in a particular
So
candidate in their portfolio.
so I think so far what I've seen is that even if it's like a B2B, because I have taken like a fair round of interviews and stuff over the past. So what I've generally seen is like even if it's like a B2B or B2C company, if it's like a fresher role or if it's like a intern role, they don't. So the major requirement is that you have UI should be, you should be good at UI skill set, because that is something like the bare minimum that you should have, and you should have decent product thinking and UX solutioning skills. So UI अच्छा होना चाहिए. You should be able to think how the product or how the overall journey should look like. This holds applicable for B2B, B2C is what I've seen. Uh, so this is like the major all apart. On top of this, if you have anything else, right, maybe you have some extra skill set that you are very good at, let's say prototyping, or maybe let's say you are very good at maybe using AI tools, or maybe you're very good at research or something. That is like an additional brownie point. But in short, this is like the core skill set that kind of most of the companies look at when they're hiring for a fresher or an intern. Product UX and UI. This is like the core skill set.
Uh, I think your audio is breaking a bit. Right.
Oh, were you able to hear me? Like, should I repeat
Hello,
once?
hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Am I audible?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you repeat the
Yes,
last
yes,
part?
you
I
are
didn't
audible.
get it.
Acha. So I was saying
Yeah.
that even if it's like a
Can you just
B2B
repeat
or
the
a
last
B2,
part? I think I missed it.
yeah. Can you hear me? Hello.
I think the audio is breaking again. Uh, I don't know if
Uh,
there's a network issue from my side.
is it better?
Mm,
Oh. Is the audio better, or
hello.
is it the same? Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Let
Video is
me
lagging actually.
keep my net.
Hello.
Is it better?
Hello. Am I audible?
Hello.
Yeah. It works fine right now.
Is it better? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So I think so. What I'm saying is that even if it's like a B2B or like a B2C company, for at least like for a intern or a fresher, the core is that UI should be like top notch. When I say top notch, I mean that at a foundational level, spacing, color, how you use your UI elements, that should be like really good.
mm,
That is like uh, core thing that you should have. Apart from that, you should have like the basic uh,
mm,
UX or the product thinking skills that you should be able to define the end-to-end user journey, how it should be uh, building user personas and all of those things. So these are like the core
yeah,
ones. And then on top of that, if you have some additional skill set, right, maybe like let's say you are very good at research, maybe you are very good at prototyping, or maybe you are very good at using AI or something else. That is like a brownie point of sorts. That's something extra. But again, this
mm,
is like UI and product are like the very core skill sets that you should be like really really good at. Uh, Obviously, there could be scenarios that there are companies or teams that might be looking at very specific skill sets. So, for example, I'll give a random example that if someone like maybe Swiggy is hiring for their mobile team, let's say, if you have more projects on if you have more projects around mobile design, that would be a little bit better. But again, at a fresher
mm.
level, it doesn't matter that much. Uh, so it's fine in that way.
Uh, I think the audio cut off again.
Uh, I think someone is mentioning ki stream
Hello, can you
pe
hear me?
the audio and things are fine. Yeah, yeah, I can.
Okay, uh, so finally, I think we should conclude it. It's already been 1 hour. So, uh, thank you everyone for staying with us. I think there are 4 to 5 people who have stayed from till the end. So, finally, what's one piece of advice you will
Yes.
leave them with? If you want to share
Uh,
something.
I would say it's I think yeah, yeah. I think it would be the thing that I was mentioning quite a bit earlier, that just mess around and figure out that the more you try, the more you'll figure out that what is working out and what is not working out. Obviously there are people before you and who have taken a certain path and that has worked out well for them. Doesn't mean you will also
Right.
have to follow the exact same path. Something worked out for them, maybe something else would work out for you. So try a lot.
Mm,
If you have the privilege of time that at least if you're in a first or second year, you have some amount of time to yourself. Obviously, there would be college, there would be
mm,
assignment, there would be parties, and there would be a lot of other stuff in college. But try to find out little bit amount of time and
mm,
try to just play around and experiment a bit. On a long term, that kind of will give you an idea that if this is something that you enjoy, if this is something that you want to pursue, even if you want to pursue that, it will also give you a broader idea that this is how things are and this is
mm.
how things will scale up to. So yeah, this would be my advice, and also like have fun. You're in college, तो ज़्यादा stress नहीं लेने का है, तो have fun as well. Uh, Yeah, I think that's the
Uh,
all the thing that I have.
I think the audio is lagging from my side.
Is it better
Okay, cool. So,
or again the
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, now it's better. Now it's better.
school?
Okay, so
Oh,
let's
same.
just wrap up this conversation for now. Like, thanks everyone for such insightful conversation. Subscribe to Design Tab and leave a comment if you like it. Thank you.
Thank you.